You all know who I am, so I'm not going to introduce myself. So I'm hoping to cover everything that I want to cover today, and hope that you all leave this session feeling more confident and comfortable hosting meetings. This is going to be mostly and specifically about hosting meetings and not so much about teaching class. So there's the differentiation there. So I just want to start with a couple basics. First of all, hosting a meeting and what that means. So this may be common for most of you, but hosting means you either schedule and start a meeting yourself. You are designated as an alternate host on someone else's meeting. And if that happens, those meetings don't actually show up in your Zoom app to start the meeting, but it will show up for you to join the meeting. And then once you join, you will be the host. Or someone schedules a meeting on your behalf, which is a special setting that I have to set on the back end. So if you are an administrative assistant or something, you might have that permission to set a meeting on someone else's behalf. And then that meeting would show up on that person's Zoom meeting to actually start the meeting. Okay, anyone can host a meeting, period. Anybody can host a meeting if you have a Zoom account. Doesn't matter if you have a pro account or not. And all of those meetings can host up to 300 participants. Any one-to-one meeting connections, if it's just you and one other person, unlimited meeting minutes. It can go on forever. I mean, maybe after 24 hours, it'll cut off, but I mean, who's going to have an open meeting for 24 hours? Group meetings are limited to 40 minutes if you don't have a pro account. And right now our pro accounts are prioritized for faculty, but we do have a pool for staff, and we have divvied those out as much as we can, a couple to each department. And we have a few floating as people need them, but we don't have a ton of extras. So if somebody needs one for a special occasion, we'll give one out, and then we take that back. A hostless meeting is a meeting where you set an option for anyone to be able to join anytime. This isn't something we recommend doing on a regular basis because it's not very secure, but it is a handy tool for someone who's scheduling a lot of meetings for other people, but not on behalf of. So Yvonne does this a lot, where she'll schedule a hostless meeting so anyone can join anytime. So she's still technically the host, even if she never joins the meeting. So that it still operates as a pro person's account, and it will extend beyond the 40 minutes, even if she's never in the meeting itself. All right. There are several settings that you want to check and make sure that are correct in your profile for Zoom. Some of those are in the app themselves, and some are only available on the web. So some of the things that are only on the web are chat settings, specifically setting the private chat. So, and I'll show you those in just a minute. Another thing is pre-assigning breakout rooms, pre-assigning polling questions, and managing and actually scheduling meetings with registration. So if you go to the web, which is center.zoom.us, you can also get to that from CenterNet, and then click on the Zoom icon from the Launchpad. And if you click on meetings, actually mine looks a little different. You should have a settings tab, and I apologize, I think my internet might be a little slow today. Go figure. If you click on settings, you're going to see all of the default settings for your profile. A lot of these are set by default, but you can set these, and these will apply to all of your meetings. So if you want to set something globally to happen every time you schedule a meeting, you would do that here. Then you can set individual settings for each meeting that you schedule from the app, if they don't conflict with these meetings. So the one that I'm particularly talking about for the chat, if you want to enable private chat for the meetings, you want to scroll down and find this right here, private chat, and turn this on. This is not enabled by default. And if you don't turn it on the web, then you won't have the option in the meeting to turn on private chat to allow people to chat with one another. Just because it's enabled here doesn't mean you have to use it in the meeting, but it won't be an option if you don't turn it on here. All right. We'll come back to pre-assigning breakout rooms and polling and registration and stuff like that. In your app, some of the settings that you can set are share here, and when you click on,
excuse me,
yes,
Christy,
yes,
when you say in the app, you mean when you've opened up a meeting and then the things below, or?
I'm specifically talking about just the app itself. So right now I'm going to be in the settings. So I'm just in the, can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and it's the desktop icon you have on your computer. So like the program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is before you start a meeting. This is just when you see the default app here with your home, chat, meetings, and contacts. And we're going to go through some of the settings that you have for the app. So when you click on settings inside the app, not inside a meeting, under general, if you have dual monitors and you want to use dual monitors, you want to check this button. There's also some other options. By default, I think it wants to enter full screen when you start or join a meeting. I actually find that incredibly annoying because it makes things disappear. And so I turned that off. Under video, there's a couple things. If the mirror video annoys you, you can turn that off. You can touch up your appearance, although I don't recommend, well, whatever. I'm not going to give my opinion on that, although I just did. I like to just be who I am. And then you can make it so every time you join a meeting, your video is off, and then you can decide whether it turns on. And then you can also check here whether you want to hide non-video participants. So if someone else in the meeting has their video off, it won't show that little box with their profile picture or just a little gray icon. It'll just make them disappear from the meeting. So you won't have a bunch of empty boxes. They'll just disappear. So that's an option. You can also do that in the meeting itself, but you can do it in the settings. You can also set yourself to be the active speaker when you're speaking. Audio, I don't think there's anything particularly special in there. Share screen, something that you might want to check is the side-by-side mode, which is helpful. I like to show my Zoom windows to other participants when I'm sharing my screen, which is what allows me to show you this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see what I'm showing you right now. Another important thing that a lot of people don't know is to understand what happens and where things are going when you record a Zoom meeting. So when you click on recording, it's important to check where your recordings are going when you record a Zoom meeting. So right now, this is going to my computer, to the users folder, my profile, documents, and Zoom. If I wanted to change that, then I would type in something else or choose a new location. I can also check the button that says to choose a location to save the recording after the meeting ends. So side note, if you're teaching in a classroom, you may not want to have it saved to the classroom computer. Or you can set this to be your U drive or OneDrive or something like that, so that it's always going somewhere other than your local machine, so that you can find it later. Or if you need to stop the recording for whatever reason, let's say you're recording a meeting in the Heritage Room and you have to quickly get out of that space so someone else can get in there and host a meeting. You don't want to be taking up space trying to convert a meeting in that space on that machine when someone's trying to leave. So you want it to be going somewhere else so that you can deal with that later.
So to clarify, Christy,
Mhm.
if you choose that location thing to save the recording,
Mhm.
then will it automatically convert there, or do you still have to tell it when you're in the room to stop converting and then go there?
It should try to convert. I mean, if you have this going to the U drive or your OneDrive,
Yeah.
then it should automatically convert, and it's going to the cloud. So it's going to happen whether it's open or not. If for some reason it stops converting, going to a remote location will allow you to go to that remote location and then double click on the buttons that say double click to convert later.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing, because as you said, I don't want to stay in the room
Right.
waiting for it to convert. But I was just, and I guess I'll just find out if I make that choice there to choose the location to save the recording, if it then will all automatically convert and I don't have to go back to do the double click thing. But I'll figure that out. Okay. Thank you.
And then the only other thing here, if you want a profile picture, you can click on profile and add a profile picture. And then under accessibility, something I find helpful, this is the only place you can set this. If you want notifications, a sound notification and a notification at the top if someone joins your waiting room, you can tick these buttons here, which can be very helpful because sometimes you're in the middle of a meeting and you don't know someone joined your waiting room. You can get notifications and set those inside the meeting itself if someone joins or leaves your meeting, but not the waiting room.
Can you repeat that?
Yes. So under accessibility, there's this notification here that says participant has joined or left the waiting room. And if you tick that box, then it will give you a little notification at the top of the screen inside the meeting if someone has joined the waiting room, which is very handy if you have the waiting room on for your meeting. And you can only set that inside your app settings. You can't do that inside the meeting itself for the waiting room. Does that make sense? Okay. Moving on. Any questions about that?
Christy,
Yes.
I think I'm pretty confused about what you set in, when you open up a Zoom meeting and what you have to go through the center's webpage for.
Okay. So
When you say the app, what do you mean?
okay, the app is the icon that is blue and has a little video. That's the app. The web is when you go to center.zoom.us or you get to it through CenterNet. And the reason that you would go to the web instead of the app is to set the private chat or to set up breakout rooms, which we'll get to in a little bit, or pre-assign polling questions, or if you needed to set up a meeting that has registration or manage registration.
Thank you.
Yep.
Christy,
So
can you say that web address again for this, or if you're not using the icon?
yes, center.zoom.us.
Thank you.
And you can also access that from CenterNet. If you click on the Zoom app from the Launchpad, it takes you directly there. I will say it is recommended and highly suggested that you use the Zoom app to schedule, start, and join meetings. All right. Let's move on to scheduling a meeting.
Sorry,
So,
can I interrupt?
yep, sure.
So why is it, this is maybe a semantics type question, but so why is it better to use the app to schedule start and end meetings? Just out of curiosity.
Because the app is designed to optimize video and audio. The web doesn't have all of the capabilities, nor does it have all of the tools that you need to host and operate a meeting successfully. It's gotten a little bit better, but it's kind of a backup option for folks who aren't able to download an app. So there is a join from browser option, but that's mostly for people who are unable to download the app for whatever reason, and there is limited capacity for video, audio, and some of the tools available.
Does that mean that I've scheduled a whole bunch of meetings through the web?
That's okay. That's okay.
But does that mean that the choices I've made for those or the dates that I've put, because it's a recurring thing, won't show up in that schedule thing on the app?
No, they will. They will.
Okay.
I'm more trying to get you all in the habit of using the app more than the
Yeah,
web.
I that's good. I'd like to hear that because I
Mhm.
guess I've been missing some bells and whistles because of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if I should reschedule.
No.
um,
No, you can schedule from the web.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. I'm just trying to give you the preferred method,
Yeah.
which is using the app.
And I can do all the same stuff from the app, like recurring meetings and all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
Yes, ma'am. All right. Any
Hey,
other
Kristen?
questions? Yes.
When I updated the Zoom app,
Mhm.
like they told us to, afterwards, the video was all stretched out. So I eventually went in, and in video under camera, it says original ratio and HD.
Mhm.
And I clicked off original and on HD, and it fixed it. But I'm just, what are your, I mean, how does that happen? What are your options with the camera? It was really weird. Just right before class. Thank you.
I don't have an answer for you, Andre. I'm going to go with your graphics card on your computer is being wonky. Have you quit the app and tried to get back into it?
I did all that sort of stuff, but I mean, it
Okay.
works now. I've just got it set for HD, but original ratio, I don't know. Not well, it works now.
Sounds like you fixed your own problem. I don't have an
I mean,
answer.
I can turn on both of these, original ratio and HD. I can turn them on. I can turn them off now.
Yeah, I think it was just probably a glitchy thing. I mean, software is glitchy.
All right.
You're good. Okay. Okay. So scheduling a meeting. So I know you all have to stare at each other for a minute here. Sorry about that. So scheduling a meeting, let me get my thing up here. From the app, you have several options. So we're going to click on the schedule meeting tab. So when this comes up, you've got several options. I know a lot of people just keep the default topic, which is fine, but it's helpful if you actually put something descriptive in there when you're scheduling a meeting, so people know what's going on. So if you want to put like, I don't know, interview or whatever it is. If it has a specific date and time, you can set that. If it's something that's going to happen more than once, or you just want to have a Zoom link that is open for anyone to be able to use repeatedly, say a staff meeting or something like that, or it doesn't necessarily have a specific time, or it does have a specific time, but it's going to happen more than once and you just want people to have a link. Click the recurring meeting button. I recommend using the generate automatically instead of your personal meeting ID. It is highly recommended to leave a passcode on it because that is secure and it prevents Zoom bombing. It's also recommended to have a waiting room enabled. You can toggle that on and off. Unless you're doing this for class, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing only authenticated users can join, because that's going to prevent anyone that's not in the center bubble and has a center account from joining your meeting. So for meetings, I would not check this. You have the ability to decide whether or not you want participants who join to join with their video on or off. So you can, by default, they're on, but if you wanted everyone to join with their video off, then you could check that button. Most people don't change the audio settings. And then under advanced, this is the setting I was talking about with allowing participants to join anytime. If you check this button, anybody can join, and it's essentially a hostless meeting. So you've got a recurring meeting now where once they have the link that includes the password, they can join anytime. Now, here's the caveat. If you've got a waiting room on, this won't work because someone has to let them in from the waiting room. So if you do this, you have to uncheck this. It just makes sense. If you've got a link and I'm trying to get in, but I'm not the host, it's going to keep me in the waiting room indefinitely if the host never joins to let me in, because only the host can let someone in from the waiting room. So just keep that in mind. If you do the anyone can join anytime, don't have a waiting room on. You can decide to mute participants upon entry as well. You can decide to automatically record the meeting, and you can assign alternative hosts. So what does that mean to assign alternative hosts? You can make someone else who has a pro account, it only works if that other person has a pro account already, be an alternative host, which means that it will show up in their Zoom app as an option to join the meeting. And once they join, they will be the co-host or the host if they're the first person in the meeting. If you're joining as well, you'll be the host and they'll be the co-host. So I could schedule the meeting and anyone else, like I could add Candace in here, and if she clicks on join the meeting before me, she'll be the host. Then once I join, I'll become the host and she'll become the co-host. Did that make sense, or was that too many words? Clear?
I'm still laughing about waiting in a waiting room where no host is there to let
Right.
you in.
Well, I mean, it's a common mistake. I mean, you think, oh yeah, this is great. I'm making this meeting secure. And then I've made it so anyone can join anytime. And then nobody can get in. They're all just sitting there in the waiting room and they can't get in. So yeah.
Philosophical.
Yeah. Okay. So, so then let's say we have started our meeting. So we're in our meeting and this is the meeting that we're in. Some things that you really should pay attention to once you're hosting a meeting is the security tab. So the security tab along the bottom is going to have most of the tools that you need. Between the security tab, the participants tab, and the chat tab, you're going to have most of the tools you need. Under the security tab, you've got waiting room. So I had the waiting room on for this meeting until I started, and then I unchecked it so that I didn't have to keep managing that while I was trying to present. So I can turn this on and off. I can toggle that on and off. Now the waiting room is on. So if anyone else tried to join the meeting, I would have to let them back in. I can turn it back off. Now anyone can join without having to be let back in. Right now, no one but me can share their screen. So there's a couple ways I can allow other people to share their screens. Anyone who becomes a co-host can automatically share their screen, or I can check this button, and that means anyone in the meeting can share their screen. Right now, anyone in the meeting can chat, and we'll get to the chat settings in a minute. Anyone in the meeting can rename themselves, which can be kind of handy. I had my FYC students rename themselves all to anonymous so that we could do a chat where everybody felt free to talk freely and not feel like they were being outed for the things that they were saying. You can uncheck this to not allow anyone to unmute themselves. So if you're doing a presentation that's more of a webinar style, and you don't want anyone to be able to interrupt with audio or video, you can check this that says, uncheck this that says unmute themselves and start video, which means that none of the participants will be able to unmute or start their video. Keep in mind that if you have other people in your meeting who need to present, they need to be co-hosts, which overrides that. So co-hosts will still be able to unmute and start their video. No one else will. So just make sure that you make your other people and your moderators co-hosts if you're going to use these settings. By default, anyone can annotate on shared content. If you didn't want them to, you could uncheck that as well. And you can always remove someone if they're being obnoxious, or if for some reason you had someone Zoom bomb, but with those security settings, you shouldn't have that happen. Okay, participants tab. When I open up the participants tab, I see a list of everyone who's in the meeting. This is also handy. Usually when I'm moderating a meeting, I leave this open so I can just kind of quickly see who's muted and who's not. So if someone unmutes themselves, if I don't have that setting, I can just quickly hover over them and just say mute. Or if someone's taking their phone and like walking around like this, I can just turn their video off because it's very distracting. If someone's also having trouble unmuting themselves as the host, I could click ask to unmute, and they would get a notification that says the host is asking you to unmute yourself. Because sometimes people are struggling to hit the button to unmute themselves or can't find the button, or they're on an iPad and it's a little wonky. If you click more at the bottom of participants, you can ask everyone to unmute at once. You can click the mute all upon entry. Andre, here's the setting that I was talking about just for entering the meeting, not the waiting room, to play and join a sound when people come in and out of the meeting. So you can check that and enable that. You can lock the meeting. So once you've got your meeting set, you can not allow anyone else into it. That's a helpful tool if you're using your personal meeting ID that you give out to people a lot, like I do. If you were having a personal meeting with someone and they had that link a lot and you don't have the waiting room on, you might want to lock that meeting so no one else can bump into your meeting. But I think the waiting room pretty much took care of that option. And then you can also enable the waiting room from here. And then you've got these options, the same ones that you've got under your security tab.
Christy,
Yes.
where did you find all of that? That's under the more part?
Yep, under the more.
Okay.
You could also manually invite someone here. When you click the invite tool, the cool thing about inviting someone through this is it pops up this fun little list of everyone that has a center account, and you can just type in someone. So if I wanted to invite someone, I could just type in their name, hit invite, and it would literally just call them on Zoom. I do that a lot if I just start a new meeting and then I'll just invite Candace. It'll call her and she'll answer. It's the new way of, just like calling somebody on the phone, except you call them on Zoom. Anyway, that was a sidebar. Okay, the other thing is, one more thing with participants, I forgot. So to add co-hosts, every person's name when you're the host, if you hover over, you've got this more tab. So when you click on more, you've got a lot of options that you can do with the participants. So I could make someone else the host if I wanted to just leave and say, you know what, you're going to be the host, I'm leaving, bye. I could make someone the co-host. So I can make Andrea the co-host, and then it's going to give me a notification that says, are you sure? Yes. And then Andrea's co-host. You can have as many co-hosts as you want in the meeting. There's no limit that I'm aware of. Again, anyone who's presenting or you want to be able to unmute, mute, show their video, share the screen, anything like that, you want to make them co-hosts. You can also take that right away from them. So you can toggle those on and off. Spotlighting. That could be a handy thing to do if you're having presenters. Let's say you have 4 people that you want to show on the screen and you don't want everyone else to show on the screen. You can do that from the participants tab over here, or I can do it directly by clicking on each of your videos. So if I just wanted Katie Ann and Yvonne and Jessica and Tabitha to show up on the screen, I could click on their 3 little dots next to their name, and I could say spotlight for everyone. So it's going to do one at a time. And then I'm going to hover over Jessica and I'm going to say add spotlight. And I've lost my other people. So who else did I say I was going to highlight? Dog fight. Tabitha over here, add spotlight. And add spotlight. Sorry about the dog fight. So 6 dogs, that's what you get, right? Okay, so now you've got your 4 presenters here and everyone else is just at the top. And if you had everyone else's video off, then they wouldn't even be seen across the top. Now, if I wanted to replace a speaker, I could come up to Candace and I could say, let's say I'm going to replace Spotlight. So I'm going to replace Spotlight, and now Candace is just the Spotlight. So that's handy if you had like a group of people who were presenting and then you were going to go back to the speaker. You can also just switch between gallery and speaker. If you just have one speaker, you may not want to do that. The spotlight is also really helpful if you have an ASL interpreter. I know a lot of people have been saying you can pin, and that's helpful for people. But in a lot of ways, I think it's a lot better if you have the ASL interpreter pinned and spotlighted for everyone. I find it helpful. I don't know sign language, but I actually find it helpful to follow along. And so I think it's helpful to have that person spotlighted for everyone instead of just the person who we think might need it. How am I doing on time? Doing okay? Okay, managing the chat. So if you click on chat, and I haven't paid attention to that at all. When you open the chat, if you click on the 3 little dots over on the far right side, you're going to have options. So because I set the private chat feature on the web, I have the ability to enable everyone publicly and directly. It used to say privately, now it's directly. I guess that sounds a little more better, whatever. A lot of times we will, in a meeting, you might want it. Well, it depends on the type of meeting. So you just need to think about this. In certain meetings, like with the board and stuff like that, they want to be able to talk to everyone publicly and directly. In other meetings that are more like webinars, that can get a little out of hand, like we saw with the opening convocation, you want to set it to host only. So the only person you're going to be able to chat with is me, and you might see co-hosts. You might be able to chat with other co-hosts. And so you can toggle that back and forth. Or you can just say, you know what, nobody can chat with anybody. We're just shutting down the chat. It's done. Or you can just allow everyone to chat with the public, but not individually have these little side conversations. Okay, any questions about that? And you can change it throughout the session. So if you wanted to allow people at the beginning of the meeting to only be able to talk to the host and then later open it up for everyone to be able to talk to everyone, then that's something you can do. And this is why it's important to have someone that is moderating both the chat. It's good to have two people that are kind of in charge of your meeting, you know, one who's the host, one who's the co-host, kind of managing the chat and the participants and stuff like that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I've heard a rumor that when you do the private chat, that the person to whom the Zoom belongs can actually see that at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the chat is saved automatically. So be careful what you say.
So on that note, is there, so when you set the chat is automatically saved to the host, but is anyone able to save that, or does it just go to the host?
That is a setting that you can set on your web profile, whether or not participants can save the chat. So auto saving chats, it is on by default. You can turn that off. You can check this button right here that says prevent participants from saving chat, and it will not allow them to save the chat. So you have that ability on the web to disable that. Like I said, some of those settings are on the web and not in the app because those are more global settings. All right, any questions? And we're going to jump into a little bit more of the nuanced things like breakout rooms and polling and stuff like that, screen sharing, if there's no more questions. Okay. Breakout rooms. So as you can see at the bottom here, my window isn't big enough, so I don't have breakout rooms at the bottom, but it's under this more. If I were to make my screen bigger, then it would show at the bottom. Only the host can set up breakout rooms. That's important to know because a lot of people want their, I don't know, co-host or whatever to set up the breakout rooms, and it's just not possible. Only the host of the meeting can set up the breakout rooms. So to set up breakout rooms, there's a couple things you can do. You can set them up on the web ahead of time. If you want to pre-assign people, I will say this works better with all center people. I have tested it with external people, and it doesn't always work the best, even if you upload a CSV file. What are you saying, Candace?
So I think
Oh, you
this
do?
is somewhat new.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you
'cause
really?
I didn't have it last week. When we
You
were meeting.
have options?
I have breakout rooms. I have the options.
Okay, so maybe that's a new update. Co-hosts apparently can create breakout rooms now. That's news to me. I haven't been a co-host, so I don't know. That's handy. So if you're on the web and you want to pre-create breakout rooms, you can actually create, like if you wanted to create 5 breakout rooms, give them names and have it ready for your meeting, you could do that. And you could upload a CSV file with all of the participants and the rooms that they're supposed to be in, so that when you start your meeting, theoretically, those people, if they join with their center account or their external account, they should go into those breakout rooms when you open them. My experience has been it doesn't always work. Sometimes it works. It works better with center accounts if people log in using the single sign-on with the center email. So it's very nuanced. So even though it takes a little bit more time, I think the best way to do it is probably just to do it manually. So to do that, you click on breakout rooms from the bottom, and then you can decide how many breakout rooms you want, and you have many options now, and everyone should have the latest version of Zoom now, so you should have the option to let participants choose their own room, which is a really cool feature if you wanted to use that. So you could create 4 breakout rooms and assign automatically, or assign manually, or let participants choose their own room. So we'll do manually because that I think will give me the better option to show you how it works. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to give them more nuanced names than room 1. And I'm just going to call this blue, green, snow, and ice. And then when I click on assign, I'm going to get a list of all the participants that are in the meeting. And then I can just check on the people that I want to add to those rooms. Now they're not going to go to those rooms yet, but I'm just going to click on people's names and then click on the next people. Click on the next people. And the next people. Okay, everyone has been assigned to a room. This little options icon down here will give me tools for my breakout rooms. So again, I can give options for participants to choose their own room. If I check this, even after I have assigned rooms, that will allow participants to bounce in and out of rooms. So they could decide, I would like to now go back to the ice room, even though I was assigned to the blue room, which could be kind of handy if you have people doing like exploratory work, like we're going to have a little chat over here and then bounce and have a little chat over here. You can allow participants to return to the main session at any time, or you can force them to stay in there until time runs out. And you can automatically move all of the assigned participants into breakout rooms. As soon as you open it, they'll just be pushed into it, or they'll be given an option if you uncheck this to actually click the thing to join the breakout room. If you click this button here, you can make them automatically close after the set amount of minutes, however many you want. If it's 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, an hour, notify you when time is up. I do recommend a countdown of at least 30 seconds. A minute is probably better, which means that once the breakout room closes, it'll give them a countdown so that if they're finishing a sentence, they'll have 60 seconds, 30 seconds to finish that thought before they're shipped back to the main session. And you can also add another one, or if these were all messed up, you could just say recreate. And then if I hit open rooms, then you all would be given the option based on my settings to either join or would automatically be shipped off into those rooms according to those settings. If you want someone to record in your breakout room, they have to be a co-host. And you should be able to, I think, Candace, do you have the ability to right click on someone and allow to record local files?
In the breakout room or the participant list?
In the participant list.
Let me look. Yes, I do have that
Okay,
option.
so I believe that if you right click on someone or click on more, and before you put them in the breakout room and say allow to record local files, I think that will allow them to record in the breakout room. Otherwise, you have to jump into the breakout room and then assign someone to be able to record or make them a co-host or both. I'm a little unclear about that because I'm not usually a participant in a breakout room. It's a little tough.
I got a question.
Yes.
So within, this has always been a question that people have had whenever I've been in a breakout room.
Mhm.
Within the breakout room itself, so if we're in our little room and let's say there's a leader of the room and they want to chat out a question to the people in the room, does it also go into the main chat?
No.
Good.
No, you're in your own little room, and only those people can see the chat. Which brings up another point that I meant to cover. So as the host, if you're in the main room while everybody's in the breakout rooms, you can message everyone in the breakout rooms. There will be an option that pops up that says broadcast message to all breakout rooms. I will say that when you're in those breakout rooms, the message kind of appears at the top of the screen. I'm trying to get this little thing. The message kind of appears at the top of the screen, like up here, and it can easily be missed. So that's just something to keep in mind. You can't write like paragraphs of text. If you needed to just send like a little message, like, 5 more minutes, or this was the simple question that we asked you to answer, or something like that, that can be helpful. As a co-host, you should also be able to jump in and out of breakout rooms. And as the host, you can join any breakout room. You can join and then pop out, join another one to kind of check on people. Any questions about breakout rooms? Okay, polling. Polling is a handy tool. It's probably underutilized, but it's a great way to just kind of get a quick question. I think you can set up questions ahead of time on the web. It's going to pop you to the web anyway, because that's where you set them up. So if I click on polling and add a question, it's going to take me back out to the web, because that's where those live. So I just got to move this out of the way for a minute, and we're in this meeting. So I'm going to go down here to poll, maybe. And then I can add a question. So, oh, scrolling, so annoying. What's your favorite winter food? You can make it anonymous. Wow, can't spell. Give me more options, Candace.
Just put soup down,
Okay.
or you can say chili, I guess.
Ooh. Okay. Okay, so there we go. And then when it comes up, well, let me go back to the meeting here. I'm going to close that for meeting. Okay, so then I'm going to launch then I'm going to click polling again. Come on. I've got my question, and so it'll allow me to edit it or just launch it. So I'm going to click launch. And then you all, because you're participants, should be able to actually vote. Who eats popcorn
Christie,
in the
could
winter?
this be used as a sort of an alternative to a clicker question if everybody was on Zoom?
Yes, it could.
Ah. But everybody would have to be on Zoom.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Anne, you'd have to think about if you had them bring their computers in to the classroom. I mean, there's a couple of different ways you'd have to think about that.
They can use their smartphones too, as long as they don't connect to the audio. They could just have the video connected and then just look down and hit the button for the poll.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, not everybody's voting, but I'm tired of waiting. So I'm going to end the poll. And normally you wouldn't see this, but I'm sharing my screen. So you have the ability to share the results. So I could click share results, and then it would share the results with you all. Which is weird because I'm already sharing, so I'm not really sure what it just did. Did it share like within the share? I don't know. That was weird. So yeah, you can create as many polls as you want. You can go up and you can, like create more. But yeah, it can be a really handy tool. Yeah, this is going to be a weird one. Okay, my last little thing that I'm going to go over here is screen sharing. How how to talk about screen sharing while you're screen sharing. So you click this share screen button. Do you see that? And then you have the option to click desktop. I have 2 desktops, so I could click the other desktop. My recommendation is to always do the desktop because it's going to show everything. And that way you're not going to be potentially clicking, for example, if you go to CenterNet and you have that window open and you click on CenterNet and then you open Moodle, Moodle might open in a different window and then you think you're sharing Moodle, but you're still sharing CenterNet because you only shared CenterNet. If you share the desktop, then anything you open is going to be shared. Does that make sense? So you don't have to worry about, did I share the correct window? This way you just share everything and then just move the things out of the way that you don't want to be shown. Now, yes, question?
Christy, I've got a lot of trouble with this, but I think there are things that I should talk with you individually about.
Okay, sure. No problem.
And I will add, I mean, it is a little bit, can be confusing if you're a faculty teaching in the classroom, PowerPoint, and you have links to videos or websites within, and then depending on what screen. So just
Agreed.
reach out to Christy or I, and we can help you guys with that.
Yep. Now, speaking of videos, and I don't have one, well, I guess I can pull something up, but I don't have anything open. Because I'm sharing my desktop already, you just want to make sure that when you screen share, if it has a video in it, that you check optimize for video clip and share sound, or any video that you share is not going to sound right. They're not going to, your participants are not going to hear the video. The video is going to be either grainy or weird. They're not going to see it. They might hear the audio, but they won't see the video, or they might see the video, but they won't hear the audio. Did I just say the same thing twice? Anyway, it won't be right. So make sure you check those and do the whole desktop. And yeah, I think that about covers it. Are you all feeling more confident? Yeah? Questions? Any more confusing points?
Christy, can you, again, about the screen share? Okay, I know how you show your desktop, but if you have an attachment, or a Word document, or what, I don't screen share very often. I allow people to do it all the time. But so what do you have to have open on your computer to screen share it? Or how does it work? I mean, I've never done that, so I don't really know how it works.
Sure. So anything that you want to share has to be open. Caveat is if you click screen share and you choose the far left button that says desktop 1 or desktop, and basically it's going to have the picture of the Zoom window, the Zoom meeting that you're in. If you click that button, then anything that you open, even if it's not already open, will be shared.
Okay, just a file or a picture or anything.
File, picture, website, app, anything.
So do most people, when they're doing that, have it minimized at the bottom, ready to go? So when they want to share it, they just open it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. So for example, when I shared my desktop, it pops up with this, and most of the time, except that I'm sharing Zoom, this is a Zoom session, I would move this out of the way so that you all won't be staring at yourselves, and you all would be able to see what I'm doing here. Now, if I wanted to move this and you all can see all my text, if I wanted to open up something else, like, I don't know, a website, a different website, I don't know. I would just open that up. If I want to move this back.
So are you just minimizing that?
Yeah, I just minimized it, and I've got
Get rid of
two screens, so I'm dragging anything into this window that is being shared. that make sense? And you should see a green window around what's being shared.
Okay.
Yvonne, the only thing that I try to make sure, especially when I'm doing a session, if I don't need Outlook, I close it out.
Yeah.
Right. So that way it doesn't ding, my emails don't come
Mhm.
through. Because
Mhm.
I share my desktop a lot. So that's
Yep.
just something that I would recommend doing.
Yep.
Once you start the meeting, or if you're joining a meeting with an Outlook link, closing out Outlook now that you have Zoom open, so you don't share your emails and that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Because we've all seen that happen. People's emails show up.
Yep. So, yeah, I think the only thing I didn't cover was recording a meeting on the fly, but that's as simple as clicking the record button at the bottom. And if you need to pause for any reason, hit pause. So if you had somebody speaking during the meeting that you didn't want to record, you could hit pause and then start it back up again. Just keep in mind, every time you hit pause, it is just prolonging the length of the movie. Essentially, it becomes a movie. If you hit stop, that's creating a separate video file. If you hit start again, it's starting a new video file. So if you want separate video files, so if you wanted one video file for one presenter and one video file for another presenter, then you would hit record, stop when they're done, record for the next one, stop for the next one. That makes sense? Those can always be edited out later. You can talk to Todd about that later, but if we want to try to save him a bunch of work later, then yeah.
I know Katie Ann had to leave, but she made a comment in the chat about the CSV file and signing in the right way.
Mhm.
So if you guys didn't read what she wrote about students signing in and registration, one thing you want to make sure is that at
Mhm.
least if you're faculty, staff, and students, that you sign in through single sign-on
Mhm.
with Zoom.
Yep.
So.
And I did make a change on Zoom. So, I mean, it should be forcing that now, but I don't know that that's actually happening. I mean, it looks like everyone here has. Nope. Gina and Jess still are not logged in as, I don't know how that's not happening.
Well, if you just click on the link that you sent us, which is what I did, I didn't really sign in.
Yeah, but you should be logged into your app and it should force you to, yep, Jess, what?
Sorry, I'm flailing. I don't mean to flail. No, so the reason mine is because I'm not using Center. Like mine's default to Gmail.
Oh,
So
right.
That's on me.
Yeah.
But if I were using Center, it would have been defaulted.
That makes sense. Yeah.
My question was unrelated, and it was about just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly on the pausing of the recording.
Mhm.
So if I were to, oops, I forgot, and hit pause, and then like we were chatting for like 10 minutes, it would basically show up on the file itself as like just a black 10-minute nothing. Is that what you're saying? If I don't hit stop?
No, it's like any other pause. It'll just be pause. There'll be nothing there. It'll just pick right back up where you start recording again, as if there was just like a doop.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are you all feeling good? Do you all feel like you can manage your meetings, manage your moderating your meetings? Okay, I did promise homework. You all thought that I was going to forget about that, didn't you? Okay, so here's what I want. What? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's what I want you all to do. I want, how many of there are you? 1, 2, oh, this is way too complicated. You all are going to have to manage yourselves. Okay, I want each of you to reach out to 2 other people, schedule a meeting with breakout rooms.
Right now, you want us to do that?
Well, just Do it.
some point.
Sometime in the next
Sometime in
couple
the next
days.
couple days, week,
okay.
just pick, reach out to 2 or actually make it 4. I want groups of 4. And you all can double up, but you need 4 people. I think that would be good. So, and I want you to schedule a meeting with breakout rooms and I want you to practice this with each other. And here's the other thing. So I know you all are doing it. I want you all to invite me to the meeting. I may not show up, but I want you to invite me.
Should we record it too and send you the chat?
Yes.
The
I want
recording
you to record it as well. That is
and
your
screen
homework.
and screen share. I'm going to try to screen
I
share.
want you all to practice what you all have learned. I want evidence of your learning. Does that sound doable? Yep. Okay. Y'all have been great. I hope the rest of your day goes well. Stay warm, stay well. It's good to see your faces.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have fun.